and welcome to the Pixie Dust Designs YouTube channel. My name is Lynn, or LV Handcrafted, here on YouTube, and today I am crafting with the Daffodil die set. But I won't actually be using these as die cuts, but rather I turned my dies into stamps. And it's really easy to do. Instead of die cutting out of paper, you can die cut out of your fun foam. I happen to actually have foam sheets where there's already adhesive on one side. So if that's what you're using, what I did was I die cut from the foam side, not from the side that has the paper liner and adhesive. That way you get that nice, clean, professional edge on the side that will actually be stamped onto your project. And it is convenient to have that adhesive because then I can just peel back that paper liner and just attach it to my stamping platform or acrylic block. So really easy to do. I have die cut, I won't be using all of the layers of this gorgeous flower because there are some layers that are really thin, and one thing to be a little bit cautious of is when you are die cutting out of foam, the foam it can be moved and stretched and distorted if you are not careful with it. So that is one thing that doesn't make, when you die cut your foam, you won't necessarily have these to use as stamps forever and ever. So they just won't really last as long as a photopolymer stamp would. But they stamp beautifully. You get nice crisp impression. And here with the flower, I am stamping just as I would with a layering stamp set. I'm stamping from the lightest color with the largest stamp first, and then as I add the additional layers that are smaller and more towards the front, I am going to choose darker colors. And in the case of the first and the second layer, I actually used the same color and stamped twice because you can deepen a color by stamping multiple times over the same area and building that color up. And so that's what I'm doing on this third stamp too. I actually have two stamps. I'm using both the top and the bottom of this acrylic block. So this block does have layers 2 and 3. And I love how the die set has been designed because look at that dimension. I mean, this is totally flat. It's stamped right onto my card base, but the flower looks very 3D because of how the dies have been designed, where you can add that sort of shadow, and you have the layers behind where you can use lighter colors. So it really does look like the flower is opening and has that nice, beautiful curve to it in the front. Really lovely as a die set, but look how beautifully it works as a stamp too. So just like regular stamps, you can also create a mask. So all I did was I just did a ghost impression onto some masking paper and I fussy cut that out. And now I am going to stamp the stamen. The stamen also comes in 2 different layers. One has the little buds at the end, and that would generally go down first, and then you have a layer that can go on top of that. I'm using the top layer, and for the little buds at the ends of that, I will use some Nuvo drops, just because I think that's going to be a little bit easier. And you can see that my stamen, it did move around a little, it did distort a little, because those are such thin cuts. And so that in particular is one of the die sets from this, where if you're die cutting out of foam, there's a real risk of distorting, and you could even maybe accidentally stretch it too far. Although in some ways that you could see that as a positive, because if you wanted those to move those stamen around, maybe bunch them up a little closer, spread them out a little bit further. Maybe you only want 3 instead of the 4 coming out. It is a lot easier to modify your foam stamps than it would be to modify your photopolymer stamps. So as with everything, there is a little bit of a pro and con, but I do love looking at my dies in a different way and using them as stamps when I can. It just helps me to get a little bit more out of my crafty stash. And if you are putting a card in the mail and you're worried about adding too much dimension and having that potentially trigger extra postage, this is a great way to just create more flat cards instead of layering a lot of die cuts and using foam in between each of those layers. I think that this stamped out beautifully. Here's a close-up look, so you can see it still looks very dimensional and it looks really 3D almost, even though it's completely flat. I hope that you enjoyed my card today, and if you haven't given creating stamps out of your dies a try, I hope you'll give that a try. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye!